You're not wrong. One thing I was thinking long and hard about, and look, I'll admit it, I wanted Paul George, right? And as the inventor of Pivot Don't Panic, I was thinking about this.
You mean pivot and panic? I think we got to rephrase it, pivot and panic.
No, this is how I act every day.
Real quick, guys, per Sham Shirani of the latest, free agent center Isaiah Hartenstein, I know some Warriors fans were looking around him, signing a 3-year, $87 million deal with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Wow,
so Hartenstein,
that's a lot of money.
The bigs get bigger out in OKC.
That's a good fit.
So now they have Hartenstein, Chet, along with Jalen Williams, along with SGA, Caruso, Lou Dort. They re-signed Isaiah Joe. They re-signed Wiggins, their version of Aaron Wiggins.
The Jalen's.
Okay, so he's not going anywhere, folks.
Okay, so, like, and again, they could have a horrible year this year, but I was thinking about how, like, sometimes in life, not all the time, but sometimes in life, sometimes, like, the best deal you do is the one you don't end up making, right? I wanted the Warriors to get Dwight Howard. I think a lot of Warrior fans wanted the Warriors to get Dwight Howard. They ended up not getting Dwight Howard, and they pivoted to Andre Iguodala. It ended up being one of the greatest things that the Warriors have ever had happen to them. In an indirect way, Baron Davis leaving the organization to go to the Clippers is part of the reason why we have Steph Curry, right?
Not the worst thing in the world.
Okay? I'm not saying it's every single time, but the more and more I think about the Paul George deal, the more and more I realize that I was grasping at straws to try to have this thing not burn out and flame out the way, like we all wanted Paul George. But you know what? In a roundabout way, it might not be the great move that the Warriors absolutely should have been doing, because if we're being realistic and we're taking a step back, they were not a Paul George away.
No, they weren't. Now, what could you attract around Paul George would be the question, and we don't know the answer to that.
That's a good point.
How do you fill out the roster around Paul George, Draymond Green, and Stephen Curry? You would probably need some shooting. Would Clay be enticed to come back with Paul George, somebody he played against in AAU? They've known each other for a long, long time. I have no idea, but here's why I was so hesitant about Paul George and why, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but taking a step back financially to get your books in order may be the better player. However, it's such a tough thing to sell to this fan base because you have Stephen Curry.
I think it's tougher to sell the Steph than it is the fans.
The fans, well, I think it's both.
Okay.
The fans are already disgruntled, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, for sure, Steph is probably thinking, damn, how's the spacing going to look next season? The spacing was already compromised last season. What is it going to look like this season without a Klay Thompson? Or if they don't get any other shooters? But I was hesitant because look at Paul George's contract, Shasky. This year's going to make $49 million. Next season, in 2025-26, he's going to make $51.7 million. In 26-27, he's going to make $54 million. Wow. Then when he's 38 years old, Paul George, it's going to make $56.6 million. It's a lot of money for Paul George. I like Paul George, but I don't like Paul George that much. I don't like him that much. And then the other deal that kind of came through the wayside, something we haven't touched on yet. The Warriors apparently said no to Chicago. Chicago is willing to do, apparently, a Zach LaVine for Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul trade. Now, I think there were some draft picks involved, but Chicago can't move off of Zach LaVine. They're attaching picks to Zach LaVine just to get off of Zach LaVine. And I agree with the Warriors in that situation. Zach LaVine's owed $138 million over the next 3 seasons. I'm not mad at the Warriors saying, you know what, we're going to pass on that Zach LaVine deal. Because Zach LaVine, to me, doesn't get you better in the Western Conference.
Well, it's a worse contract than whatever you thought the Jordan Poole one was.
Exactly.
If we're being, like, for all the people that weren't in on Jordan Poole, like, okay, you want LaVine?
Yeah, I'm good off that. So I'm not going to go crazy about Zach LaVine or the Warriors saying no to Zach LaVine. I think that was a good move by the Golden State Warriors to say no. To your point about not making every single move and just making a deal just to make a deal, that to me would have been, hey, we're just going to make a deal just to make a deal to appease the fan base for a couple weeks. Then all of a sudden, Zach LaVine goes out there with multiple injuries. Like, his injury history is nasty.
I know.
Nasty.
It is.
So I'm glad they say no to
I mean,
Zach
the fact
LaVine.
that someone's stapling picks to get rid of a guy tells you everything that you need to know. Just very quick aside here, just to close the Avery Johnson loop, multiple-time Warrior. I'm counting 3 separate times with the Spurs. It could be 4. 2 times with Denver, and 2 times with Dallas. That's pretty incredible.
That is incredible. Good for Avery Johnson, man. Good for Avery Johnson.
I got to tell you, the way that he would deliver the lines. I loved Avery Johnson.
NBA champion, Avery Johnson. So right now the Warriors have the biannual exception, $4.7 million. They have the non-tax paying exception, $12.8 million. And so they're under that second apron. They're under that first apron and that tax threshold. So they're under all that. They got to make a couple tweaks to get under the salary cap, but they're right there. So Joe Lacob is not going to pay the repeater tax. And look, Joe Lacob's paid a lot of money with the luxury tax, and you can say what you want about Joe Lacob. I know two things about Joe. One, actually, the first big thing about Joe is that the guy wants to win. Like this whole nonsense about he doesn't want to win. Now, whether or not you make the best decisions for your basketball team, we can argue about that at a later point. But the guy wants to win. You don't pay the taxes to pay the tax.
No,
you know what I'm saying? And not want to win. What are you doing?
Well, I can't. We have to understand that the finances. You can't keep everyone. And not only can you not keep everyone, you can't draft everyone. That's one thing that I've seen a lot of people like losing their minds over their drafts. And this, like, they missed on Wiseman. Guess what? Whoever else was in that number 2 slot was going to take LaMelo or Wiseman. Those were going to be the picks. Right. All right? Like, today, you really want LaMelo for the money that he's getting right now?
Boy.
And LaMelo's much better than James Wiseman. And even then, like, we're talking Grand Canyon-esque gap to fill to be, like, where the Warriors want to be. Like, everyone, it's basically there's 2 guys out of that draft. The guy who's in...
Tyrese Halliburton, Indiana.
Which... Again, he was in Sacramento and they traded him, okay? Right. And then obviously Anthony Edwards.
Right.
I mean, those are the 2 key contributors. They missed on Wiseman. They did. And
I don't think you win a championship with LaMelo in 2022.
Okay.
Jordan Poole, I think, was a better fit for this roster or whatnot.
I would agree.
I mean, LaMelo's fine, but he can't stay healthy.
But, like, what I'm getting at is that, like, the Moody, the Kuminga, the Jordan Poole, the Wiseman, this other... Look, man, and I know we hate to say this out loud. The more and more I'm thinking about it, the more and more I kind of agree with Nick Friedel. That 4th championship, thank God they got it. It feels like the bonus title.
All right, so don't fall for that trap.
It's
true.
Look,
we're not going to do that because now people are starting to label championships, and now we're starting to take away championships.
I don't mean it like that. I'm not saying it's diminished. What I'm saying is thank God they got that last moment.
I hear you.
Because this is more the real NBA, where like you swing on a bunch of picks. How many times did Oklahoma City draft high and not hit until recently?
Well, Philadelphia is the perfect team with that. Trust the process. Because look at Philadelphia, what they've done. And you look at the Boston Celtics and how they hit a home run on Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, where Philadelphia had to go through Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, flip those guys. You trade for Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler leaves because you go ahead and choose up on Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris falls short. Now he's gone. So, yeah, you're going to miss picks. I grew up watching the Warriors miss pick after pick after pick after pick.
100%.
So, to me, missing on the Wiseman pick, it's like, hey, man, you're bringing me back to the 90s. But that's not what ended this thing. Now, it would have helped if Wiseman had developed and he's still here, and it would have helped if Jordan Poole was still here. But let's be real, man. Things got tweaked when that day of practice happened October 5th, 2022.
Well, and let's also be honest here. Like, they got older and they got a lot more expensive, and the league put together rules that made it very difficult to maintain an older, expensive roster. That's as you're asking the youngsters to put miracle work together while these other guys are getting paid premium money. It was unsustainable.
And now we got to bank on Kuminga making another leap, and I'm excited to see that. Where's Moses Moody at?
I mean,
where's Podziemski at? But they may not be done yet. We don't know what's happening.
They might not even keep Kuminga. I don't know.
Well, they might not keep Wiggins. We have no idea. That's why I wouldn't panic if I'm a Warrior fan. It's the second day of free agency. Calm the waters down. I get it. Clay's gone. Meltdown. I'm not having a meltdown today. I'm not going to have a meltdown until I see what the final roster looks like. All right, I'm built for this. You know, if you want to sit at the kiddie table, go over there, sip your Kool-Aid and pout and throw tantrums, go do that. But I'm not going to do that right now.
I hear you, and I'm not saying everyone, because most people are logical and they know that nothing lasts forever. But when you're in the middle of the winning, and I remember this with the Niners, and I remember it definitely with the Giants, you just think that it's going to go on longer than you think. Not that it's going to go on forever. You just think it's going to go on for longer. You always think it's longer. We'll just hold it off. We'll hold it off. We'll hold it off. And I think most people are like, you're clinging to the hope that it'll last. Like, okay, for example, the Giants, when they started winning championships, I'm like, oh, oh, now we're in the top 5 all time. Like, we're not looking back. The Giants are going to be Yankees, Red Sox, Dodgers-esque, and Cardinal-esque for the rest of my life. They've now won 3 championships. Look at where their payroll's at. Like, they're developing random guys like Matt Duffy. They're never going to look back. They're going to be one of these upper echelon teams forever. Boy, I feel dumb saying that. The Niners. I was like, oh, dude, we've been great for 17 straight years. There is no way. No way. Oh, look, we found Jeff Garcia. Even when Steve Young went down, we're going to be great for a long time. Well, we may not win it all every year, but we're going to be in the mix forever. No. At some point, every organization hits a thud. We've seen it with the Spurs. Even the Lakers. Outside of the LeBron championship, the last 8 years hasn't been that great.
They've been very mediocre.
Exactly.
Hell, the Yankees haven't won since what? Oh, what is it, 2011 when they beat the Phillies?
09.
What year was it? 09? That was 09. Yeah, that's 15 years. The New York Yankees have not won a World Series championship. So, no, nothing lasts forever.
But I think it's hard when you're going through the decline in real time. It's hard to admit it.
Well, because the emotional attachment to the guys who won the championships. That's what it is. You are listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and AC1 San Francisco and Odyssey Sports Station, always live on the free Odyssey app. Don't forget, you can also watch us every single day on our YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter streams brought to you by First NorCal Credit Union. For a low-rate auto loan, apply online or just ask for First NorCal financing at the dealer. Let's go to Oscar in Stockton. Oscar, what's happening, man?
Good
morning, Oscar.
Oh, my God. I got a lot to say. Hey, man, but you know, one thing about it, I understand Clay. I understand the Warriors. But for the last couple of years, the front office has been making some bad mistakes, and it's going to show down because you do not make these big-time contracts with no Draymond Green, no Jordan Poole, or no Andrew Wiggins if you knew the CBA was coming up like this. This has no bearing on Klay Thompson.
Well, let me stop you real quick. They signed Wiggins and Poole before the new CBA was even announced or ratified. It happened 4 or 5 months after they signed those guys. So they signed them thinking that the old way of doing business was still the old way of doing business, not knowing that the league would really clamp how they can move off those contracts.
But even they signed up they played good for 1 year though, and that was the whole basis. They did not have to sign Jordan Poole that early. They still could have waited to the next year to sign Jordan Poole before the punch. But never just said that they still make bad decisions on draft picks. We always in history made that, but not even saying that. You're supposed to preserve money for the big three. And the way how they're going out with Klay Thompson is going to really hurt Steph Curry because you need shooting around Steph Curry. We need shooting. And everybody wants Klay Thompson gone. And that's one thing about the fans. I've been here for a long time, through the good and the bad. You do not, even though he's leaving, the way how everybody is dogging Klay, I can imagine how they're going to do Steph. And it's not guaranteed that Steph is going to end his career in the Bay Area. Steph is looking at the way how they treating Klay. But I mean, Steph is mad as hell at this. Man, they don't get no shooting around. You just can't depend on the youngsters. I love the youngsters, but this is the Warriors. And they're going. We're about winning now. We're not trying to go backwards, but let's see what they're going to do.
Well, good call, Oscar. Listen, the new NBA collective bargaining agreement was ratified by the National Basketball Players Association in April 2023. It took effect July 1st, 2023. Those deals with Poole and Wiggins was done before that new
October
CBA.
2022.
And now you could have played the hardball. You could have played the game with Jordan Poole and said, you know what, we're not going to give you money. We're going to just wait until you become a restricted free agent. But after the situation that happened in practice, you really couldn't play that game. How much leverage did the organization have after Jordan Poole got punched? You know what I mean? Like, it's not leading back to the punch, but seriously, if you don't resign, if you resign Jordan Poole, if you don't resign Jordan Poole, and he's already disgruntled with the new contract, what's going to look like without the contract? So I think you had to do that. Hey, Wiggins, you got him at a discount. We all believe Wiggins was a discount coming off those
$10
finals.
million less than the contract prior. But here's the thing with Jordan Poole that I for the life of me, he had a monster year the year before. A monster year. And when you give out these deals, you have to project and you have to take a risk, right? And in years past, when you sign, again, Part of why they made the huge trade for the We Believe, they overpaid for Dunleavy and Murphy, knowing that they could move those guys down the line. You thought the same thing could happen here, but when the new CBA came out, it was like, no. We are going to make it so prohibitive. We're taking away draft capital. We're taking away all these provisions for you to add mid-levels.
All right, we're going to break. Miles,